Welcome back. Now, the growing infamy of Kaduna as the most terrorized state in Nigeria in recent times, despite the heavy presence of the military and police in that region, has continued to be a source of concern for both the government and citizens alike. The state government particularly has expressed worry over the increasing attacks in different parts of the state. During a presentation of the first quarter security report for 2022 to the State Security Council, Governor Nasir El-Rufai expressed concern about members of the Ansaro and Boko Haram terrorist groups now infiltrating some parts of the state and their growing interaction with armed bandits. The governor lamented that the terrorists have started moving en masse from the northeast to the northwest and even recruiting young vulnerable members of the communities into their folds, luring them with gifts and cash. Meanwhile, the state security report also revealed that no fewer than 360 persons were killed by terrorists in the first quarter of 2022, while over 1,300 residents of the state were kidnapped by terrorists in the same period, with Kaduna Central recording the highest casualties. The state government, however, says it is extremely worried that the conduct of the 2023 general elections might be compromised in the state if the security challenges are not addressed. The insecurity in this part or that part of the country now is not new, but what exactly does the government need to do to tackle this persistent menace, because we just can't continue this way? Joining me now to discuss this further is security expert Dr. Kabir Adamu, who joins us via Skype from Abuja. He's the managing director, of course, of Beacon Consulting, which is a security firm operating outside of Abuja. Thank you very much, Doc, for joining us on the program. Let me start by asking you what you make of, the alarm raised by the Kaduna State governor and, of course, that security report that was presented for the second quarter in the state.
Thank you for having me, DEJI. Yes, let's kind of give the context to the report. This is a project that was started by Governor El-Rufai early in 2021. And so far, I think this is the fifth version of that document that is being released by the state government. So
which, of course, is something good.
Exactly. The best part of it is that the governor or the government of Kaduna State has embraced modern approach to security, which is the use of data. Now they are collecting that data, they are analyzing that data, and then they are presenting trends. And part of the trends presented in that report is the presence of these terrorist groups. Now, this is not new. As you're aware, I do have a consultancy, and part of what I do is intelligence publications. In our publication from November last year up until the last publication we've done, which is for April 2022, we have indicated that this particular group, Ansarul Muslimina fi Bilad Sudan, has been active in the border area between Niger State and Kaduna, particularly in Birnin Gwari local government, where from that November up until April, it's been recruiting from residents. And that recruitment cuts across the value chain, if allow me to use that word, of a terrorist group. So from active members to members that are mere informants or sometimes facilitators, as the case may be. So this is something that we've documented, and now the state government is coming out to restate that fact. It is unfortunately a scenario that is repeating itself, given what has happened in the northeast and now happening in the northwest. From when these issues are minute issues that could be addressed, we allow them to blossom until they become monsters that unfortunately will consume the environments that they are present in. And that is, I think, what the Kaduna State Governor is saying.
I mean, you look at that report too, and the report actually narrows down the area of concern, or the areas now where this bandits and terrorists operate, narrows it down to 3 local governments, to be precise. That are 2 or 3 local government areas. Now, why is it difficult, for instance, for our security agencies to also narrow their activities to these 3 local government areas and try to deal with the issue there, try to contain the terrorists operating in these 3 local government areas?
Okay. Now, that report shows clearly that the epicenter of the security challenges in Kaduna State is in the Central Senatorial District. And about like 3 local governments, like you've mentioned, Birnin-Gwari, Igabi, and Chikun local government. Now, Chikun local government is where the train incident occurred on March 28. Now, cordoning off those local governments is not an easy thing, for the simple reason is that there are forests, the so-called ungoverned spaces that we always discuss. You've had me in your program severally. I've referred to ungoverned spaces. Now, these ungoverned spaces exist in these 3 local governments, and the challenge is that they traverse about 5 states. So any attempt to cordon off those local governments would have to also include these other 5 states. Now, it could be an issue of capacity, or it could be an issue of capability. Unfortunately, we don't know what the reasons are, but the state government, as you know, the lacuna in our constitution makes security an exclusive, within the exclusive list. So it's the federal government that has responsibility for this distance to ensure that these ungoverned spaces are cordoned off, and that those bad guys, the terrorists that operate within them, are either arrested or killed, as the case may be. So perhaps myself and several other Nigerians will be happy if you could take this question to perhaps the Office of the National Security Advisor, or the Chief of Defense Staff, or the Inspector General of Police. Let them tell us why, despite this public information now, we're not seeing that type of coordinated operation that would cordon off this forest and ensure that these elements that are operating within it are either arrested or killed.
And the governor did talk about the capacity of this problem now to affect the conduct of the 2023 general elections, especially in those local government areas. What do you make of that?
No, certainly. We have, over time, been making this point. In my experience, the elections may be held, and we've seen that in Borno State, even when Nigeria was arguably tagged by major bodies in the world as the epicenter of terrorism globally, we still held elections in Borno, and figures came out there. So I believe that the elections can still hold. However, the question is, what would be the integrity of that election? If you have people that are displaced and that are being catered for by a particular government, which of course is aligned to a particular political party, will that influence the outcome of that elections in that state? They are in a camp, and their food, their accommodation, everything is being the responsibility of that particular political party, by the government in power in that state. And so the issue is not about the elections holding or not, but I think the integrity of the election. If we go by what happened in Borno State, then I believe that that is what would likely happen in several of these states that are challenged by security. The question now would be, what the political parties would do. Will they accept the outcome of that election? They've learned from the previous election, 2014, 2019. And right now, if you hear some of the political parties, they make reference to what happened in Borno State. Now, are they going to fold their arms and allow that to repeat itself? Or would we have a contestation that unfortunately would question the integrity of the election?
Let me ask you this last question now, just before I let you go. Look, this governor is on record to have said the security agencies know where these terrorists and bandits are. He's said so several times. At some point, even the National Security Advisor acknowledged that much, but said, it will be difficult, for instance, to storm some of these places where they are, like in the case of the kidnapped train passengers now. Up till this moment, about several of them are still being held, over 100 now, are still being held. And they're being held, as we understand, in Kaduna, because the governor has said so. The governor even said, look, they know where, that the security agencies know where these people are, that they intercept their communications and all of that. Why do you think it's also difficult to storm these places? Of course, I know you would tell me that question should probably be directed at the National Security Advisor, but as a security expert, why do you think it will be difficult, for instance, to storm these places if we know where they are?
Two words, DEJI, impunity and lack of accountability. And that's what we need to change by 2023. Any presidential aspirant that promises us he's going to address these two issues and tells us in clear terms how he's going to do it has my vote. We need to ensure that within the security architecture, we change this current impunity. You're right, the governor has said it, and I'm aware that he visited the president not once, not twice, and he has actually tabled that before Mr. President. You're also right to the extent that several security departments have corroborated that information. And in fact, when the Q1 2022 report was being presented, it was at the Security Council, and all the security departments in the state were in attendance at that Security Council. So it's a matter of impunity. Impunity on the one hand by the non-state actors who recognize that they are dealing with a state that frankly allows them to express that level of impunity without any consequence, and then lack of accountability by those that are responsible for security within the country. So let's change that. Let's introduce monitoring and evaluation as well as accountability principles within the security architecture, so that where there are failures, as blatant as the one you and I are discussing, whoever is heading that department would be held responsible. In certain instances, we can prosecute him for the kind of negligence that would lead to loss of life or destruction of property. Again, that level of lack of accountability and responsibility, it trickles down up to the ordinary Nigerian who will accept, indolently this level of impunity by officials that are representing the state. So again, it's not a blame that is held by one person. It's a blame that cuts across all the layers of responsibility, down to the person who goes to vote and decides to vote for someone who has not told him how he's going to address security. Again, we're in an pre-election year. This is the time when politicians will come to us. Let's listen to anyone who tells us how he's going to change this current narrative and end this impunity, as well as improve on accountability within the security architecture.
Well, it's a pity. I grew up in Kaduna, and I know how peaceful Kaduna used to be. I know Burning Gwari, for instance, which is one of the epicenters of this challenge. I know Burning Gwari very well. I used to go there, and sometimes I really wonder if it would ever go back to what it used to be. Honestly, this is really, really bad. Kaduna used to be one very wonderful place, but not anymore. Let's just hope that we're able to deal with this and take Kaduna back to what it used to be. Thank you very much, Dr. Kabir Adamu, for joining me on the program, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
All right, that's how much we can take on the program this week. We thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.